Hello, and welcome to Resolution Podcast. We are the Resolution Partners, Resolution Partners. Emphasis on the soul, SUL. My name is Scott, and this is my lovely wife and partner in crime, Athena.
Partner in crimes now?
Good crimes.
I'm so excited for
Love
this.
crimes.
Like
Crimes.
Bonnie and Clyde?
Not quite to that extent.
He's lame. Just kidding.
But partners in fun and love.
There we go. I like that. Partners in fun. That's what we should be saying instead of partners in
Partner
crime.
in crime, yeah. Well, welcome. We are glad you're here, and we are glad to be here for another exciting and insightful and informative and fun.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, I think it's fun.
I do too.
I'm passionate about it. I think
We're
it's fun.
nerdy, so this is fun for us.
This is nerd stuff. Podcast, which we will be talking about here shortly. But for those of you who did not join us last time, Athena's going to give just a brief summary of what our first episode was about.
Last week's episode was really just us sharing our own journeys with what we have learned so far and practiced so far in our lives with healing and different modalities and spirituality, different philosophies. So we were sharing our own stories and then how we think that we are able to help you guys. Yeah. Which is our offerings, of course, our podcast, I think is going to be extremely insightful. We're going to be going through and decolonizing a lot of practices and also giving you a more in-depth look at the actual philosophies instead of the New Age philosophies. And we take clients one-on-one and separately where we can help you. We mentor people, but we teach yoga, we do energy healing, sound therapy, all of that fun stuff. So you can check all of that out in the link that is up in our bios.
And we have courses individually.
We do. I forgot about that. Actually, Scott's starting a course called Exodus, which is about becoming a legal and lawful non-taxpayer, which is amazing. And I'm getting my next group course ready. I don't do them very often. I usually just do one-on-ones, but this one's going to be a lot about trauma and how to heal, different healing modalities, as well as diving into your nervous system, polyvagal theory, your brain, and somatics, really. So I'm really excited, and it'll be for people who are looking to heal their trauma and recovery, but also for people who are in the healing spaces like we are. Because unfortunately, a lot of people do not have that understanding of people who've gone through intense trauma. They don't know how to recognize the signs or how to keep their clients super safe. So I'm really hoping that will help guide people as well.
Yeah, she's very experienced in this, very knowledgeable. She has taken me through some of these modalities, some of these practices in my own stuff, and it's really benefited me. And so that's an exciting thing to look forward to.
My own therapist has said that it seems like I have at least 8 honorary PhDs in trauma and therapy. So I'm not sure if that's like a compliment, but I'm going to take it.
It's very much, it is a compliment. I would take it as such. Better than the opposite.
That's true. That's true.
And my course, Exodus, is for you amazing, beautiful, sacred rebels, I will say, who are all about getting more freedom, liberating yourselves from I'm going to say just a horrible
oppressive system,
and just for lack of a better way to put it, just kind of sticking it to the man in a very nice and peaceful and
exactly. You don't have to protest to change your life because it doesn't really do anything, unfortunately. No. So this is just a way for you to exit that system and be able to really become self-reliant, self-sufficient, and have more rights as a human being.
Yeah, exactly. And to stand up for your rights and to know what your rights are.
Exactly.
And that really leads us into the conversation of today's podcast.
It does.
Which is, and I'm a nerd. She wings it. And I'm very methodical For those of you who know me, you can attest to this.
He has
I have notes.
over 3 pages of notes. I asked him for cliff notes for the podcast today. Just cliff notes of topics that we were going to touch on. And he comes up with like these tiny, like, I love him.
Hey.
I am not that way. I want the easy, give me the cliff notes, and then we're going to flow.
I'm a writer, and I'm also a wordsmith, so, you
He
know.
is very good at that. He has a lot of etymology in there that is
Yes.
amazing. That's just not what I can contribute.
Right. And that, to be honest, you know, I am, I have an ulcer in my throat. And I'm, you know, been working on a lot of the throat chakra stuff. And so my self-expression comes better through the written word, as it has in the past. So, like I said last time in this podcast, or our first podcast episode, this is very new to me. I don't like the sound of my own voice. Although a lot of people,
Which is so crazy.
a lot of
'Cause I'm
people-
in love with it. Oh
a
my
lot
god.
of people say that, and that it's very calming and comforting. And
It is though, and
There's
it's
something.
just like the pitch is so perfect. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't get it.
Well, maybe it's because we don't hear our voice the way other people.
No, that's
do.
true. That's true. Actually, when I'm speaking just normally, I like the sound of my voice. But when I have a microphone like I do now, I hate it.
I cannot.
It's so different.
I cannot stand my voice when I listen to on a recording.
Me neither. Exactly. It's the worst.
It almost sounds like the teacher in Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. You know, whatever
Yours?
that sound is.
No.
Yeah, that's what it comes across to me. I'm like, what is that?
No.
Okay. All right.
That's a lie.
Anyway, the point is
Your
that
brain's playing tricks on you.
it does that.
It does. I know.
The little bastard. Anyway, so the point is, I love taking notes because I can express myself in a way that is very thorough and to the point and clear. That's why I do that. So, lucky
We
for you
have different
guys.
ideas of what the point is, but he's a very beautiful writer.
So lucky for you, I have goats. But today's podcast.
Did you just say have goats?
No, but we should get some someday. Goats.
I
That
heard
would-
goats, and I was like,
That always
I am
reminds me.
so lost right now.
Goats would be fun. You know.
Those fainting goats are kind of cool.
I
You
don't
can
know what
scare
it is.
them and they faint.
Oh, that's interesting.
I would have a lot of fun.
I know you would.
I know.
You would have a lot of fun with a lot of stuff.
I would. That's true.
Yes. And
Like
well,
harpoons.
like harpoons. We had a conversation the other night about harpoons and how much she wanted a harpoon, and she's got a long list of freakish looking dogs that she
Do not make fun of Peggy Luann. She's beautiful.
what was her name?
Peggy Luann. McGillicuddy.
the third. That's right. That she wants to acquire and be a part of our family. So someday.
Just like a lot of random animals, to be honest, like alpacas. Remember that freaky looking llama we saw?
Yeah.
We saw this freaky looking llama.
Yeah.
I want that one. It'll probably sacrifice us, but I do want it.
We went to, was it a pumpkin patch?
Yeah. It was
Pumpkin
creepy.
patch.
It followed me around. It was really creepy.
Yeah.
And I definitely thought it was like going to sacrifice me.
It had one crazy eye.
Yeah.
Just like,
One eye would look straight and the other one was just like looking around in circles. It was
Yeah.
so creepy, but I loved it. I was terrified of it.
you
I had a
were-
weird
you were in love
relationship
with your
to it.
stalker.
Yeah, I was.
That's crazy.
Anyways, my ADHD got us off topic, so I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Let's get started.
Welcome to our relationship. We gotta, she goes on about 100 tangents, and then I have to bring it. See, this is the reason why I need
I
notes.
brought it back this time. What are you talking about? I said, hey, I'm sorry I got off
She
topic.
did. This is why I need notes, though, to make sure we're, on. We're a good balance. We harmonize well together.
We do.
Yeah. So today's topic is on natural law principles. And for those of you who are not familiar with natural laws, this may be probably one of the most important topics. Focus on, focus of study that you could possibly imagine. Because natural laws, as you will find out, as we've discovered, are really the foundation for life itself.
We are.
Yeah, and how we show up in the world, how we live in the world, how we perceive ourselves,
how we interact with the world, interact with other people in the world.
Yes. As you'll find out, it is one of the basic, as we said, principles of life itself. And principles, she mentioned etymology, and I'm a wordsmith and a word nerd.
He is.
So,
in a really beautiful way.
Principles means, principle means first things first, right? So, we're going to talk about natural law today. And this is going to set the foundation for many of the many topics that we have to cover on this podcast. So, we believe that natural law needs to be deeply understood and grasped if we were ever going to move through some of the problems and challenges that we have individually and collectively as a society.
Exactly.
When you first thought of natural law, what was the first thing that came to mind to you?
When I very first heard of them, the first thing I thought of was religion, and I was immediately kind of turned off by it. But I first heard about it through a New Age lens, and to me, that just did not feel right. I was just kind of like, ooh, I don't know, like this is getting a little bit, no offense, like if you are religious, that is completely fine. But for me, it was just a little bit too Christian for me. And I grew up in a super, super strict Christian household, and I was just immediately like, no, I'm good. I don't need that to be a part of my life. But then as I started decolonizing it and I found the actual truth of it, I really did fall in love with the principles.
Yeah, I think I can understand that. I think in large part is because there's some, I was going to say I don't know why, but I do know why. There's some misunderstanding when it comes to the foundation of this country. And
all countries, to be honest.
Right. And you know, I'm going to say founding fathers in quotes. Like the founding fathers, there are many people that believe that they were Christian, that they believed in the Christian faith and Christian religion, and then the Christianity was embedded in the foundational document, which is not true.
No.
So we're going to be talking about this today in this podcast, but in the Declaration of Independence, for example, like the most important, I would say even above the Constitution of the United States, and you hopefully can come to understand why as we talk further. But in the Declaration of Independence, it mentions the laws of nature and nature's God. And so there are, when I was embedded in a Christian faith and was on that, in that foundation, I've listened to a lot. I'm a researcher, I'm a self-educator, and I listen to a lot of things that I love to understand how the world works. And there were many programs and podcasts and books and whatever that talked about laws of nature and nature's God, and then they somehow twisted it into the Christian God and Christianity, which it didn't mention that at all. But looking back on it now, it didn't sit well with me. Like, I'm in many ways, when I'm reading something, I want to know exactly what they're talking about. And in nowhere in that document does it say, I love Jesus. You know,
I do too. Jesus was awesome. Are you kidding me? His teachings, honestly, so good.
Amazing.
He was amazing. Yeah. I absolutely believe he was a real person, and he taught incredible things. Yes. I love Jesus.
And as that,
I would have loved to hang out with him. I feel like we could be besties, honestly.
Absolutely, and he's gonna be an important part of understanding natural laws. And what I was gonna say is that Uber driver I had a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
He had this really cool. I mean, the moment he pulled up and I saw his dashboard, it was like this altar of, he had a bunch of different statues, and Jesus is one of them. Mother Mary. He had Shiva. He had Lakshmi. He had Buddha. I mean, he had all this really cool, down to earth. He's one of those weird guys, but the cool weird guys.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
But he
eccentric, but like super cool. But like you're totally weird, but I love you.
He had like chakra banner hanging down and incense, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
But he called Jesus Master J. He's like
Master J.
Master J is he's like Master J is the best. But yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm stealing that. He is forever going to be known as Master J now.
Yeah, we had a really cool conversation, even about natural law.
You didn't tell me that part.
I didn't tell you that part. But he called him Master J. So I love Jesus, as we've just been talking about. But Jesus is not mentioned in any of those foundational documents.
He's not, because that's not the point of America.
Right.
The point was never to have a Christian God. It was freedom of religion or freedom not of religion.
Right.
You know?
And the Declaration of Independence was a brilliant document that really embodied natural laws.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit in my notes.
Well, just let it.
See, this is me going in flow.
Yeah.
This is me in flow.
Just let it flow.
Let
we'll
it
be
come,
good.
baby.
We'll be fine.
Okay. So in the Declaration of Independence, it talks about natural law and our rights. And basically it comes down to three things in natural law, right? Three words that natural law, the very foundational
of natural law,
understanding it is do no harm.
Yes.
Do not steal. And in the Declaration of Independence, it talks about, the rights that we have as human beings under the laws of nature, and nature's God, right?
Right.
And there are three main ones that were mentioned: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, okay? And so we all have a right to life. Mm-hmm. We all have a right to liberty, which we've talked a little bit about.
Yeah, no, we talked about liberty. I think it would be important to cover as well on here.
We will. Freedom, but it also means like free exercise of conscience.
Yeah. To
have control of your mind, to not let anybody take that from you or have control of your mind. That means no mind control, all you conspiracy.
No brainwashing.
For all you conspiracy yahoos like myself. No
for
mind
everybody
control.
Else, like just no brainwashing you without manipulation. For anybody that understands, abuse and trauma, not allowing anybody to manipulate you in that way, becoming so free and having so much liberation with yourself that you know how your brain works, what you've been through, and you can spot that to keep yourself free from that harm.
Yeah, exactly. And the other one is a very misunderstood thing. This is the only thing that, I'm sure there's something else I missed, but this is the only thing that I think Jefferson got wrong in the Declaration of Independence is his wording. As I said, I'm a wordsmith, and you have to be very clear, right? And he said the pursuit of happiness. Now, happiness is a very broad thing. A lot of people have a lot of definitions of happiness. What makes people happy, right? So that is an inherent thing. Yes, we have the right to be happy, but that's not what he meant. He took that from other people like John Locke and Frederick Bastiat. I think it's Bastiat or Bastiat. He's French.
Well, don't ask me.
Bastiat, something like that.
Probably
but in their writings, the pursuit of happiness meant the right to obtain, maintain, and keep property.
I didn't even know that one.
That's what that means. So the question then...
Yeah, he did mess up on the wording severely because some people have been able to take that and twist it so many ways to take away rights.
Yes.
Now I actually get that one. Okay.
Yes, property rights.
I'm learning something too. Right along with you guys.
In my journey, I came from a very conservative family. And I also went to, at least in Utah, was a very liberal University of Utah. Although in most states, it's not really considered as liberal as other universities.
Well, it's not, but for Utah, it is. I knew so many people that were like, "Oh, that's a terrible school. It's like the center school."
Right. And so, in my education in English, wordsmith, we dug a lot into the evils of capitalism. Okay. So you go down that road.
Yes.
And property, right?
Yes.
Property seems to be in some of those schools of thought a very evil thing. But it's actually something, it's one of the key
Why
things.
would property be evil? It's something that we all need to survive. It's a survival thing.
Because it's tied to the capitalistic ideas.
Right.
So you have Marxism, right?
Right.
So you have the Marxist thought of like that property should only belong to the state, and the state can then divvy out the property. It should not belong to human beings.
Yeah, which is wrong in so many ways.
Yeah, property is essential to liberty and freedom. And so as part of that, and do no harm, and not stealing your property, going to my course.
Yes.
Right? Property also includes your money, the fruits of your labor. In fact,
Exactly.
Bastiat, John Locke, and others, they talked about the fruits of your labors being a form of property.
I love that.
And how nobody has a right to the fruits of your labors. Nobody has a right to take from it via taxation, tithing, whatever it may be. Nobody has a right to that. That is your property and your property alone. And you get to decide what to do with that. So that's part of the natural law principles. But it goes deeper.
I love when you give me that look. It goes even
It goes deeper. Okay, so we're going to talk about something. I am going to refer to some of my notes, and my lovely wife is...
I'm just looking over your shoulder.
She's going to be...
just going with it.
She's going to be interjecting, I'm sure, and sharing her thoughts. And
I will. I'm just going to let him do his note thing, and I'll interject with some little things here and there.
So, as I mentioned before, I think it's important to understand natural law principles to deeply understand the world we live in. And not only that, but to... obtain the freedom that we want in our lives and we crave, and the lives we want to have and create. And
we deserve them.
Absolutely, we do. And that means also to understand its expressions, meaning how it actually works in the world. To look at the forces that shape the world we live in, to look at what creates order versus chaos. And this is something big for me because...
getting into anarchy?
Well, that too. But I mean, understanding what anarchy really means, not what we've been told.
Yeah.
Anarchy, by the way, just means living in a world, a society of rules, like natural law, laws, principles, but no overall rulers.
Love that. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody to be an authoritative figure, which in all societies, whenever you have an overarching authoritative figure, it always leads to tyranny, destruction,
it does,
slavery.
And no matter how, in America at least, they always try to say, well, we have a democracy.
No.
But do we actually have a democracy?
Do you know what the founding fathers thought of democracy, by the way?
What?
They absolutely despised it. Do you know why?
Why?
Because it always leads to a road of enslavement.
Which is exactly what's happened.
Always. The will of a majority can be swayed easily. Easily.
Oh, yeah.
When it's based on the will of majority and not on natural law. When it's based on man's law as opposed to natural law.
Yeah.
You have chaos.
We do, exactly.
So that's chaos. We have kids knocking on the door.
We do, always. I'm going to pause this and then we will... No, I can't pause this.
We'll just keep going.
I can guarantee it's probably my 7-year-old.
Probably.
Most likely.
Yes.
She loves to butt in.
But anyway, going back to the topic. So there is a misunderstanding of what order and chaos is. Okay? A lot of people think order is when you have man's law. And man's law dictates. And that if you do not have man's laws, which are very controlling, very restricting, etc., that if you don't have those, that it will lead into chaos. When actually the opposite is true. By having man's laws, by having a system based on man's law and authoritative figures to enforce man's law, we have created a world of chaos.
Exactly.
And destruction.
Well, in a world of just like total fear, I think a lot of people are really afraid to not have an authority figure and to be their own authority figure.
Yeah, well, they are because
they're terrified.
Because we have been taught not to trust ourselves.
Exactly.
We've been taught to ignore our intuition.
Exactly.
Which is
and especially I'm just going to put out there because it's a little bit different as a woman, and especially as like a person of color or somebody that is severely oppressed. you know, let's look at the best way I can describe this, because I am not a person of color, obviously, so I can only speak from my own experience. But what I was going to say is just that let's go back to Christianity. You know, we are taught from a very young age that women are not to be trusted. Look what Eve did with the apple. She manipulated Adam, and then they were cast out. Women are not to be trusted.
Yeah.
You can't trust yourself. Men can't trust women. You have to trust the man to lead you, because you don't actually know what you're doing, and you may end up manipulating them, right?
Yeah.
It's your body that is forcing them to be removed from God, right? You are making them have lustful thoughts over you. It is your fault, right? And so women are constantly told that we are not able to trust ourselves, and that we are the problem, that we consistently make men fall, when that is just not true. And as hard as it was for me, I can give you a 100% guarantee right now that it is even worse for those who are people of color and part of the LGBTQ communities.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. But it also, I mean, it applies to all of us in general, because
it does. I'm just saying that, like, we have different experiences in life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, while men have that issue as well, a lot of times it is a lot deeper for women. It goes a lot deeper, just the way that society portrays us.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take anything away from that. I just meant, like, there are other ways that they do that, where they try to get us to not trust our intuition. It comes in religion. It comes in, the school system. It comes in the government itself. Like, we have to have somebody create rules for us, otherwise we don't know how to live.
Well, that's the same thing with religion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I hear so many times, like, the only reason I don't hurt or, unalive someone is because I don't want to go to hell.
Yeah.
That's why?
Yeah.
That's really why? That's the only thing keeping you from doing that? Like, that's like serial killer thinking right there.
Not because you don't want to cause any harm. Right?
Exactly. This is crazy to me.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So it all, going back to where we were talking about. It's okay. She gets on cool tangents. It's all good. And I love her thoughts.
But you can now tie it back in.
Yeah.
Tie us back in.
So, we need to look at the forces that shape the world around us, the world that we live in, and also to look at what, by understanding, I know where I was. Okay. By understanding what creates order versus chaos, that will let us know whether we are living in harmony and alignment with natural law or not. And natural law, I see it as a gauge to know if we are creating that order and chaos.
I think you should expand on that, though. Expand on, well, how do you know if you're creating order or if you're creating chaos?
We'll kind of dive into that.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, no, we'll cover that for sure. And to see if we are flowing with natural laws, or if we are going deeper into the control systems that are actually pushing against natural law.
Right.
Going back to man's law.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The question is, will we choose that path to align with natural laws, or will we continue in the same pattern that we always have been and pushing against it? And that comes to an understanding of what natural law is. An understanding of natural law is an understanding of truth with a capital T.
Exactly. Yes. When we say capital T, because there is an absolute truth, and then there is people's opinions or beliefs that they perceive as truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And along with that, a lot of the New Age talk is there is no such thing as truth. It's called, there's a term for it that I've learned about. It's called solipsism, which means that there is no actual thing as truth.
Well, I can see that when we're talking about, our opinions. You know what I mean? That makes a lot of sense, or your belief system.
As to ice cream is good.
Exactly.
Ice cream
I
is
like
the bomb.
Chocolate. He likes vanilla. Well, mine is truth. Mine's obvious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. But there is an absolute truth, and you're going to find this truth in every single line of philosophy. Unfortunately, due to colonism is what created New Ageism. And that's why they have this thought that, like, there is no absolute truth. But there is, and you're going to find this in Hermeticism. You're going to find it in Egyptian. You're going to find it in Indian philosophies. You're going to find it in the Vedas. You're going to find it in so many different schools of thought. That is the absolute basis and the actual truth of this philosophical topic.
Yeah, it's kind of like on one side of the spectrum there's determinism, the other side of the spectrum it's like my will, trumps everything else.
Exactly.
But really it's learning how to balance the both to live in harmony with natural laws, which is the deterministic side, but using your free will and choice to live with those natural laws. That's where you combine the two and create a life that is harmonized and aligned with truth. And we are shaping our reality through the observance to the principles of natural law, or we are completely ignorant. I love that. It's
like one of my favorite etymologies that he's come up with. Ignore, right? Ignorance. You're ignoring the truth.
You're ignoring the truth. You're ignoring
what's happening. Exactly. You are ignoring the systems of oppression. You are ignoring what's blatantly right in front of you because of your ignorance.
Yeah, the ignorance. I didn't make it up. I wish I could. There's a guy that I got he's a brilliant guy, and I learned a lot about natural law from him. His name is Mark Passio. So, one of the things that we like to do is to pass on the credit to where credit is due.
I'm so sorry, Mark Passio. I did not know.
No.
That's where he
but
came
it's
up
brilliant.
With that.
So
it is brilliant.
So
I
I'm
love
using
it.
that.
It's one of my favorite things you've ever told me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Do no harm, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So the philosopher, she's into philosophy, and the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard said that there are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe that which is not true, and the other is to refuse to accept what is true. And in our world today, too many people are believing things that aren't true and ignoring things that are true. People get caught up in the fear of man's laws and neglect the freedom that comes from following natural laws. Natural laws are not man's laws.
No.
Natural laws, part of natural, which we'll talk about a little later, is that they exist no matter what. They were here
way before we were.
Yeah. Because of universal cosmic laws.
Exactly.
And they obviously, if they were here before we were, then they were here before man's laws were here. And that's an important distinction. So natural laws are not here to control us.
No. They're here to free us.
When people hear the word laws, they're like, oh, okay, well, I can't do this. Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt not do that.
Well, no, I always think of, not breaking the law. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
always think of, okay, well, then I, don't rob a bank. I don't know why that's the first one that comes to mind.
I don't know. Do you have a fascination with robbing banks? Is there?
Apparently I do. I always think of just like actual laws that you're not supposed to break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That man has created in order to control you, actually.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That is a brilliant point, because man's laws are here, and I will say, it's a controversial thing, but I would say even most religious laws are
absolutely
here to control us.
Exactly. No, that's not controversial. Well, I guess for some people that would be. Yeah. But for us, that's not controversial, and it's very, very true. And honestly, something I have learned is that the people who make these laws, they tend to see power differently than we do. They have a different definition. To me, power is the power over my own mind, the power to choose my responses, the power to calm myself, the power to live in peace, the power to live how I want to live, the power to heal. That's what power to me means, right? Yeah. However, with these people that are creating man's laws, the way that they define power is having control and dominion over others.
Exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. And they've twisted the word force. Okay. Force is actually a very good word, because you use force. Going back to Star Wars, the force will be with you, right?
Yeah,
it's energy, right?
It is, exactly. It's a good thing.
But they twist it and to say, they are enforcing laws.
Right, yeah, right? Exactly.
Law enforcement, right? What really they mean by that is they've switched the word. The word is actually violence. They inflict violence. They enforce, meaning they use violence to make sure that people follow man's law.
I just had my mind blown.
It's violence.
Again, because I was just thinking about today. Remember how I was telling you, let me find, oh my gosh, hold on. I'm so sorry, you guys. I have to find her name though, because I have to do this justice. All right. Going back to the violence, right? Sonia Massey is a black woman who should be alive today. And she called the police because she had an intruder in her home. And the police came, and she didn't have a weapon, so she was boiling water on the stove. That's what I heard. Mm-hmm. And the police officer thought that because she was so calm, she was unwell or something, just because they're prejudiced, obviously, against black people. And when he entered, he was very, very aggressive, and he ended up unaliving her for no reason.
Wow.
Literally in her own home.
Wow.
And that is what the law enforcement, especially for people of color, like this happens all the time, and it makes sense. They've changed the word force to violence, and they do it all the time.
Yeah. So if you think about it, they've twisted the English language is actually really brilliant. We tend to think that, because we're an American, we don't use the English language very well usually. Right?
Well, I know that my grammar's awful, so
that's okay. It's okay. But the English language it's brilliant. Okay. And words are created like Sanskrit.
Yeah, so, exactly. I understand Sanskrit and mantra. I know how English works. Yeah.
So there's a play on words here. Volition, I believe, it means something like you're using your free will and your choice, right?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then you have violation.
Yes.
People violating your rights, which is it's destructive. And then you have violence. Mm-hmm. So anytime you have a violation, like somebody's violating you, like.
Yeah. But what's funny about, I'm sorry for interjecting, but the word violation is that commonly it's used to describe something that you've done wrong.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Because if you look at it on, online or in dictionaries, it's like you broke a law, right?
Exactly.
But
you were in violation.
But it's actually, if you go back to natural law, right? In your natural inherent rights, which are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody who takes that away from you in any way has violated your rights.
Yes, exactly.
And they use violence against you.
Mm-hmm. But they twist it to keep you under their control.
Yeah, exactly. So, understanding that difference is very, very important. Man's law versus natural law. And
natural law, like we were talking about earlier, is spiritual law, right?
Yes.
It's mystical law.
Yeah.
It's the law of how consciousness and energy and intention all works.
Right. So this is me breaking off script here. In the flow, babe. So, natural means spiritual. It is something that it is inherent, right? It's something that exists. It exists within something and someone already because it was placed there by creation itself.
Exactly.
So it is.
So all of us have access to natural law within ourselves and all around us because that energy, pervades everything. So everybody can get to it.
Yeah, as you said, natural means spiritual.
And I think that's a part of the reason why people are so afraid of natural law versus man law and not having authoritative figures, just because, like we were talking about earlier, they don't know how to access it. Mm-hmm. They don't know. They don't trust themselves that they will be able to stay moral or have high value or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you think about it too, and we'll kind of go into what these 7 main natural laws are at the end, because this is leading up to some of our other podcasts as we cover them. But if you think about it, if you're in school, in the classroom, and even in a classroom, in a religious setting, you learn about God's laws, or basically the laws of the religion. Mm-hmm. And then you're in school, and you learn about man's law. Right. What is the law of the land, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you learn. But I don't recall ever learning about natural laws.
No.
And what these principles are, and how they are universal, cosmic, unchanging laws, and how by living with them, my life would be amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't remember ever talking about that either.
No, not at all. Mm-mm. So natural. If you go back to the Egyptian meaning for spirit or God, it is neter. Some people say neter, neter, right? Mm-hmm. And that means spirit or God. And all means al, neter all, means of or related to. So natural means of or related to the spirit or God.
Yes.
And law is a condition that already exists, right? So natural laws really are spiritual laws.
Exactly.
They begin, this is very important, they begin in the spiritual realm and then they manifest in the physical realm. So it's a very, very important thing. And, going back to what we were talking about and coming to understand natural laws and understanding the difference between order and chaos. Thomas Jefferson said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. Ignorance and freedom are completely opposed. We cannot have our head in the sand. I know a lot of people, especially in the world that we live in, they're like, I still want to know.
Right.
I just want to keep my head in the sand and pretend like nothing's wrong. But there's a distinct difference between becoming so absorbed and obsessive and overwhelmed by certain things that are difficult to sit with. There's a difference between that and a difference and of understanding the world around us. As Jesus said, be in the world but not of the world. Like be aware of things.
Yes.
But don't get caught up in
exactly.
It. Right?
It's like the non-attachment.
Yeah, non-attachment. Exactly. Yeah. And so, basically what Jefferson was saying is that if we expect to be free, if we want to be free, we cannot be ignorant.
No, we can't.
Another way to put it, as Mark,
I think it's really good to actually take the time to understand Maya and illusion.
Yes.
And to really you have to break that Maya and break that illusion, no matter how hard you think it's going to be. Shatter those illusions, or you're doing a huge disservice. To yourself and to everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just ignore it.
Yeah, you can't. Not at all. You have to. You have to understand it. You have to be aware of it. As Mark Passio, I mentioned it before, Mark Passio, he says, as ignorance goes up, freedom goes down.
Exactly.
As knowledge goes up and ignorance goes down, freedom goes up. It simply is just an eternal truth. That's the way it goes.
No, exactly.
And so by learning natural laws, we become wise. We want to be wise. And wisdom means accurate knowledge, properly understood and applied or embodied. It's a proper application of knowledge, right?
Right.
And so we come to discover this knowledge and coming to understand it, and then we act on it, right? It's a brilliant equation of the trivium, right?
Right.
Which I think we talked about in the last podcast.
I think so. I'm pretty sure we talked about it.
As we think,
yes,
so
we did.
We feel, so we act.
Kind of. I think we kind of touched on it, but not like a ton, to be honest. I don't remember talking about it a lot. We just kind of like said it.
Yeah. Yeah. But essentially natural laws lead to our own, not only our own liberation from Maya, from illusion, but going back to liberation, right? The root of that is liberty, right?
Yeah.
It leads to our freedom. And it's interesting going to one of the root words of liberty is libere, okay? And this is a Latin term,
Okay.
And I wasn't aware of this, but in the Latin language, there's no different word for free and book. They're the same thing. If you think about it, library. Right?
Yeah.
So library, books, knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge is what will create freedom.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how closely associated, knowledge is with the concepts of liberty and freedom. There's a gentleman by the name of Mikhail Bakunin, I think is how you say his name. He said, the liberty of man consists solely in this, that he obeys the laws of nature because he has himself recognized them as such, and not because they have been imposed upon him externally by any foreign will whatsoever, human or divine, collective or individual.
Yeah, because no matter what you follow, you still have the free will. I love free will.
Yeah. And, we will only...
I think that's a really important... I'm excited to talk about that more in later episodes, just in free will, because it really helped me when I was just learning how to heal from a lot of different trauma that I had experienced, and understanding just a lot of what I had been told. Because again, I started with like the New Ageism.
Yeah.
So like what I had been told, and then what's actually true, and it helps so much understanding free will.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know,
Just knowing that we all have free will to either follow the laws or to not follow the laws. Unfortunately.
I mean, the laws are going to exist no matter what.
Exactly.
Right? And they always will. Always have been and always will.
Mm-hmm.
But if we use our free will, going back to finding that balance between
Right.
them,
Of course.
then we get to determine our own.
Like the pendulum, you know,
destiny.
you've got to come back into the middle.
Yeah.
Meet everything in the middle.
Yeah.
Learn how to do that.
Exactly. Yep. By learning how to use your free will in living in accordance with natural laws, we do become we do determine.
We become the architects.
Yeah, we are. Exactly. And that kind of ties into, you know, when we live in harmony with natural law principles and respect the rights of our fellow beings, true liberation and sovereignty will take place, which is a huge part of our work together, is creating that sovereign life, inside and out. Natural laws govern the macrocosm of the universe, and thus correlate to the microcosm in us. They are immutable, right? Meaning they can't change.
Right.
Only we can change our behaviors and mindsets to align with them. It's kind of like the causal relationship, right? The cause and effect. Right?
Yeah.
And they're not here to bind us, as we already covered. They're here to
for you.
Or enslave us. They're here to liberate and create expansion.
Exactly. Unfortunately, you know, we've been told that law means restriction.
Yeah. But it's not.
No.
In fact, Jesus said that knowing the truth will set us free. And the knowledge of truth is what Jesus claimed would be the path to true liberty and sovereignty.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
About Jesus and knowing
just
the truth.
That quote, yeah.
I say it one more time.
Let me rephrase it. How has knowing truth brought more freedom and sovereignty to your life?
How has it brought more freedom to my life? I just feel I had a really hard time with imposter syndrome. And when I was healing and like trying to learn manifestation and all this New Ageism, it made it really feel really, really restrictive, because I also, you know, I had a lot of trauma. And so trying to get my brain and body to connect without knowing how just felt like I was at a constant war with myself. And that came through when I was like, okay, I'm trying to make a plan for my future. I'm trying to get the energy there and also take the action. But because I was at constant war, there was just so much getting caught up in the middle, and it just wasn't working for me. And so it wasn't until I learned the actual truth of it that it began to make sense and click, and the imposter syndrome and the war was able to subside inside of my head. And I was really able to relax and surrender and understand it from a new perspective. And then everything has since really started falling into place very beautifully for me.
Beautiful.
Which gave me that freedom.
Yeah.
A lot of freedom, a lot of sovereignty.
Yeah. How does it feel when you are in that state of freedom and sovereignty? What does it feel like inside?
Very expansive.
Like,
it's like you just go on forever. And actually, it reminds me of, we have a friend and teacher back home in Utah named Alec. And do you remember when we were in Kirtan with him, and he would tell us we would meditate on the cave inside of our heart that we all exist in. That's where our soul exists. And it always reminds, every time I think of expansion and freedom, sovereignty, I go right back to that visualization.
Yes.
And that's what it feels like, you know, inside my little cave, and there's the ocean out front, and it's just completely open, and I feel so myself.
Yeah.
But in a different way. It's like I'm not my personality. You know, I'm not my individuality. I am so free that I am past that limitation, and I am free as in
you're limitless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to really learn the truth.
Yeah. And that's really what abiding by the laws, and in particular the 7 main general principles of natural law, which we'll talk about here shortly, that's what it does. Is it creates that expansion, it creates that liberty, that sense of freedom, and being a part of something that is greater, because we really are, and we're individuated expressions
Yes.
of the divine,
Exactly.
but we are part of the divine. We are part of something greater and more expansive. You know, I always thought that God was. I always put a box on God. You know,
Right.
growing up. But as I started to understand things, I realized that God is much bigger than anything I've ever been told
Right.
and believed.
I always thought of him as just like a person, and it didn't feel very expansive to me. But I also thought of him as like a judgmental asshole that I didn't
That's
want
true.
anything to do with.
That's true. Yeah.
Why are you judging me, dude? Like, I'm just living. What is
Yeah.
wrong with you? But like, I just imagined him as just like one person.
Yeah.
You know, and I also didn't like that there was no place for a woman there. You know, I was like,
Right.
what?
Wow.
But when you think of natural law, you know, and I really love the perspective of from Sanatana Dharma, from Hinduism, where they believe that God is formless. You know, so God is not male, he is not female, he has no form. You know, God is all around you. It's inside of you, all around you. It's gigantic. You know, the entire of the universes are inside of it.
Yeah. It's inclusive.
Exactly.
Everybody and everything
Is inside of
inside
it.
of it.
Inanimate objects, animals, the teeniest, tiniest insects.
Going
All
back
of
to the macrocosm and microcosm.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot to dive deep into all of that you brought up, which we'll have to cover another time. But I know we're short
heading
on time.
that way.
We're short on time. So natural law, as we talked about, is expressed through 7 basic principles. And these are the expressions on how natural law actually works. The putting first things first, going back to the meaning of the word principle that we talked about. These principles, therefore, create a solid foundation to build upon our path to creating the inner and external world and lives we want. So natural law is a gigantic mirror, ultimately, right?
Exactly.
It is the universe is a reflection of the self, and vice versa. So these laws are knowable, and discoverable, and they can be applied in work. My love, can you just talk about what those 7 basic natural law principles are?
Absolutely. So we have the first one, which is the principle of mentalism, which means all is mind. So essentially, we'll touch on this next week because we'll go through all of them. Well, we'll go through the first one at least. So this is just meaning that we are in a mental projection of the Creator. And I've got so much to say on that. I'm so excited for this one.
It's going to be a good one.
The second one is the principle of correspondence, which is the as above, so below, as within, so without. Then we have the third, which is the principle of vibration. I have so much to say on a lot of this one too. Everything moves, everything vibrates. Then we have the fourth one, which is the principle of polarity. So everything has poles, and those poles are pairs of the opposites. They're identical but different in different degrees. I am excited for that one too.
This is a good one.
I know.
They're all good.
They're all so good.
Yeah.
The principle of rhythm. Everything flows in and out, rises and falls. I almost read that as rinses.
Everything
Yeah,
rinses.
Yeah, it all rinses. You're
And
so
flows.
lucky. Anyways, number 6 is the principle of cause and effect. It's also known as the law of karma or the golden rule, ahimsa. Then we have the 7th one, which is the principle of gender. I have so much to say here too. So much. You guys might get a rant. But that's fine because it's needed.
It'll be an informative.
It will be very informative. If you guys can get over my
harmonized
ADHD,
rant,
then you
yeah.
will see that my rants have a lot of wisdom. All right?
Yeah. What is that? What is gender?
The
actually
masculine
mean?
and feminine energies that are inside of all of
All
us.
of us.
Now, I really quickly, when it comes to this, it's not meaning an actual gender like male, female. It's not meaning our sex or our biology. It's talking about specific energies. So your left side is corresponding to your feminine energy. But really, I like to say lunar or the moon energy, just because some people don't get it wrapped up in their heads. And then your right side of your body is corresponding to the masculine or the solar or the sun energy.
Yeah.
And I have so much to say about this one just because it's been so
many people get it wrong, by the way.
do,
So many
and it
people
drives
think
me
of
nuts.
masculinity, the rise of masculinity, taking
Oh
the
yeah,
masculinity
exactly. This is the divine
male
feminine. They're totally a divine feminine. I'm like, I
Yeah,
hate it when
no.
people call me that. I'm like, no, I'm not. knock it off. That's not what that means.
By the way, I saw a meme today. I forgot to send it to you, but it was like,
how dare you?
It was like, I'm not the divine masculine. I'm not the divine feminine. I am the divine comedy.
Honestly, that
fits you perfectly.
Yeah, it does. I do love to mask my pain with trauma and humor.
Trauma with trauma and humor.
Yeah, I do. Obviously. Very dark humor, but it's fun.
So that's going to be an exciting episode to bring a lot of clarity and clear up a lot of the misconceptions and help people really understand themselves more on a deeper level.
Because that's what it's for.
Yeah.
That law is to help you understand yourself. That whole principle, that whole idea has nothing to do with your relationship with another person.
Right.
It has everything to do with your relationship to yourself.
Yeah.
That's all it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be inward, not outward.
Right. And going back to as we think, so we feel, and so we act. Right? It's understanding how we think. It's understanding how the brain works.
Exactly.
And understanding the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. Let's go back
all those little things and what happens and how you should be in control of your brain.
Right.
Your brain is so amazing. I love brains. They're so incredible. Yeah. Same with your nervous system. I'm such a geek about that. They're incredible. I love
Very knowledgeable on that.
I have an obsession. But it's just so amazing. And then how you can actually learn how to take control of it, because you should have control of it. You shouldn't let your monkey brain or your lizard brain be taking over your life. That absolutely restricts you in every single way. Yeah. But if you can learn how to control your brain instead and be in control of your responses to life, you're going to find that freedom that you're looking for.
Right. Going back to your right for the free exercise of conscience.
Exactly.
Liberty, right?
Exactly.
So, and all that ties in the left and the right hand, the sphere of the brains, to the masculine and feminine.
It does.
Well. Bring it all together. So we are low on time.
We are. But try to keep it under an hour. I went on so many tangents.
That's
I am
okay.
so sorry.
We're like right there.
We are. We did good, even with my detours that hopefully made sense. I think you were able to tie it all back in. I just have like so many random things pop in, and I'm like, oh yeah, this makes sense to me. Hopefully you can make it make sense to everyone else.
See, this is why we work. It's the structure and the flow, right? Yeah. I have a basic foundation, so I know when you go off, I can bring it right back. You know what I mean? So, and you have the freedom to go off.
Yeah, right? That's true.
Yeah. So, we are excited to dive deeper into the 7 basic principles of natural law, and each one in a separate podcast episode, so that we can go deep into them. And we are excited to share this with you, and excited that you're here for this ride and this journey and path to not only discovering natural laws, but as we will go further down into our podcast, how that we can apply other spiritual practices that are really definitely in line with
and also
laws.
I'm really big in decolonizing them, because it's so important to decolonize your mind, to decolonize your practices, to decolonize honestly the entire system that we live in.
Yeah. So
I'm going to be very heavy on that. I think you probably got a taste of that today.
More of that fun to come.
Exactly. Way more fun for that to come.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
I am too.
And I'll tie it, and he's really, really great with understanding the more of the philosophical side. I love the philosophy too. He's really, really great at putting it all together. And then I like to bring in how can we use this to like heal and to decolonize and use this as a society? Yeah.
It's beautiful. And that's why we work so well together.
Yeah.
So thank you again for joining us, for being here. And we are excited for the weeks ahead to come. Is there anything else that you want to add to this?
No, that's it. I think we're good.
Okay. Well, I hope you have a blessed week, and we will
see you guys next week.
See you soon.
All right.
Thank
bye.
you.